Elimelech and Naomi had taken their 2 sons to Moab when there was a famine in Bethlehem. Elimelech soon died. Naomi married her 2 sons to Moabite women, but after 10 years the sons died, and Naomi decides it's time to cut her losses. She would go back to Bethlehem, and she sends her daughters-in-law to go back to their father's house, in the hope that they will still have a happy future. But Ruth insists she will not leave Naomi. She will continue to provide for her, according to the responsibility her husband would have had. And so the 2 return to Bethlehem at the barley harvest, and Ruth, true to her word, goes out gleaning, and happens to land in the field of Boaz, a rich landholder in the area, who is also a relative of her father-in-law. He insists she continue to glean in his field for the barley and the wheat harvest. And at the end of the harvest, Naomi sees the time is right to put an appeal to Boaz. She instructs Ruth to dress up and to go to the threshing floor where Boaz is threshing the barley, and when he lies down at night and is asleep, to go to him, uncover his feet, lie at his feet, and when he wakes up, to appeal to him to take her under his wing. This she does, and Boaz wakes up in the middle of the night, startled to find a woman at his feet. But when she makes the appeal, he responds saying, "You are a virtuous woman, and I would be happy to take you under my wing. But this responsibility lies with another relative first, and if he will not do it, then I will do it." And so he undertakes to seek to care for Naomi and for Ruth, either by getting the relative to undertake the responsibility or for him to undertake it. He gives Ruth a bountiful gift of 6 ephahs of barley. That's a whole week's work of gleaning. And so they must wait. We continue the story in Ruth chapter 4. Now Boaz went up to the gate and sat down there, and behold, the close relative of whom Boaz had spoken came by. So Boaz said, "Come aside, friend, sit down here." So he came aside and sat down. And he took 10 men of the elders of the city and said, "Sit down here." So they sat down. Then he said to the close relative, "Naomi, who has come back from the country of Moab, sold the piece of land which belonged to our brother Elimelech. And I thought to inform you, saying, Buy it back in the presence of the inhabitants of the elders of my people. If you will redeem it, redeem it. But if you will not redeem it, then tell me, that I may know. For there is no one but you to redeem it, and I am next after you." And he said, "I will redeem it." Then Boaz said, "On the day you buy the field from the hand of Naomi, you must also buy it from Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of the dead, to perpetuate the name of the dead through his inheritance." And the close relative said, "I cannot redeem it for myself, lest I ruin my own inheritance. You redeem my right of redemption for yourself, for I cannot redeem it." Now this was the custom in former times in Israel concerning redeeming and exchanging. To confirm anything, one man took off his sandal and gave it to the other, and this was a confirmation in Israel. Therefore the close relative said to Boaz, "Buy it for yourself." So he took off his sandal. And Boaz said to the elders and all the people, "You are witnesses this day that I have bought all that was Elimelech's, and all that was Chilion's and Mahlon's, from the hand of Naomi. Moreover, Ruth the Moabitess, the widow of Mahlon, I have acquired as my wife, to perpetuate the name of the dead through his inheritance, that the name of the dead may not be cut off from among his brethren, and from his position at the gate. You are witnesses this day." And all the people who were at the gate and the elders said, "We are witnesses. The Lord make the woman who is coming to your house like Rachel and Leah, the two who built the house of Israel. And may you prosper in Ephratah, and be famous in Bethlehem. May your house be like the house of Perez, whom Tamar bore to Judah, because of the offspring which the Lord will give you from this young woman. So Boaz took Ruth, and she became his wife. And when he went into her, the Lord gave her conception, and she bore a son. Then the women said to Naomi, Blessed be the Lord, who has not left you this day without a close relative. And may his name be famous in Israel. And may he be to you a restorer of life, and a nourisher of your old age. For your daughter-in-law, who loves you, who is better to you than 7 sons, has borne him. Then Naomi took the child and laid him on her bosom, and became a nurse to him. And the neighbour women gave him a name, saying, There is a son born to Naomi. And they called his name Obed. He is the father of Jesse, the father of David. Now this is the genealogy of Perez. Perez begot Hezron. Hezron begot Ram, and Ram begot Abinadab. Abinadab begot Nahshon, and Nahshon begot Salmon, and Salmon begot Boaz, and Boaz begot Obed. Obed begot Jesse, and Jesse begot David. My name's Arthur, and I thank you for joining me as we share the conclusion of this beautiful story of Naomi and Ruth, a story of redemption. And when you look at the story and see how it all turned out, you say, well, really, was it so bad that things went wrong in the middle for Naomi, that Elimelech and Mahlon and Chilion died in Moab? For this is the wonderful thing that the Lord does. He takes our disasters and turns them around when we trust him, when we seek his guidance. And this is what both Boaz and Naomi have plainly done. They acknowledge God at every turn of their lives. The beginning of the restoration was when Naomi decided to return to the Lord, to Bethlehem, to her family, even though she had no hope there. The second point was that Ruth chose to adopt the God of Israel and to support Naomi in her old age, as was her responsibility as a daughter-in-law, even though her husband was dead. She had taken on the role of the wife of Mahlon, and she was going to fulfill it completely. This was a commitment to the Lord as much as to Naomi. And so she leaves her father and mother, her gods, her nation, her people, and comes with Naomi to the people of God, takes the first steps, and one thing leads to another. She vindicates her character before the whole town of Bethlehem, working hard every day, gleaning to get a little bit of grain for her mother-in-law. And when others see her industry, they're pleased, and they encourage her and help her. But ultimately, she needs to have her own family. And rather than setting an independent family up and just marrying the next person who comes along, she seeks to restore the name of her father-in-law and of her husband. And so she asks Boaz to take her under his wing, because he is a close relative. The responsibility of not just buying the land of Naomi, but taking on Ruth to continue the family of Elimelech and to maintain the inheritance of that land rather than it moving to another family. The whole community is really happy. But this story is here not just because it is a beautiful story. It is here because Ruth became one of the ancestors of the Lord Jesus Christ, being the great-grandmother of David, King of Israel. And Jesus is ultimately our kinsman redeemer. He was the only one who could lay down his life and take it again, the only one who could pay the sufficient price to redeem our souls, for the redemption of a soul is precious.